carried. Thank you very much. Peter, I think we can get through yours very quickly before the break. So this is just a very brief update on the LTP program plan. We've asked for this just to come as a standing item. So in terms of the implementation from that request, Peter, you've got a few things you're organising?
Look, this is very brief. Yeah. Over time it will get a bit more detail, but at the moment it's just to emphasise that last month you approved a clear plan to deliver. It's basically the pace is earlier, more transparent and with better alignment. We've asked all the work streams, so the infrastructure strategy, for example, to prepare project plans about how they will deliver their component. So who, what, when, milestones, and we expect to report back to this committee on the basis of progress against those in coming months. Good.
I mean, I think the important thing is that two-day workshop, that's locked in, because the sooner the new council gets into the LTP, the better.
That's understood. It would be helpful if there could be a little further information on, or steer on, what you expect to cover in that workshop.
Okay, well we can maybe, in the next 3 months we'll put something in where we can sit and discuss that. I would suggest it's setting the clear strategic directions and what outcomes people are looking for.
Okay.
But council can discuss that. Yeah, Vicky?
I just want to be clear that the resolution the council passed about 3 or 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, on putting the 2 top strategic priorities as climate change and safe sustainable water into the LTP is clear.
The process is geared to incorporate some big themes at the start, so climate change, resilience, water, rather than try to build a business as usual plan and then run those filters over at the end. It's designed so that at the beginning,
they go in the beginning,
when people are building activity plans, building asset plans, that thinking is there at the start. So we've got Mike Galuli and people like that involved at the beginning, not the end.
Okay, and those 2 clear strategic directions, that the overarching one, start at the beginning.
The people from strategic planning are helping us make sure that those themes are there at the start.
Those 2 themes.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Aaron and then Andrew.
Yeah, Peter, I'm just wondering how much of the residents' survey, like we saw this morning, which was pretty massive, will inform this. I just looked to a couple of the lowlights, like around people's satisfaction with roading, for instance, given this is the LTP, and we were told this morning that we are 20 years away from having our roads back in pre-quake condition. That should be a big point in the LTP, because if the public are that unhappy, then they should be telling us how to spend our money when it comes to roading and at what time frame, and we need to be open and clear about what that costs to change that delivery date. Will that and any other lowlights and highlights in there inform the document?
Short answer is yes, because the process is fronted by environmental scan. Okay, so in that you'll get the usual demographic information, what's happening with the population, economy, all that sort of stuff. But there'll also be what's the learnings from the resident survey, what's the learnings from the Central City survey, the whole raft of stuff, and it's quite a lot, because it reflects what's happening across the region, which is complex.
Yeah.
Now, often, a lot of councils, in my experience, they get one of those environmental surveys and they go, it's sort of infotainment. It's interesting, and then you get on with doing the process. It actually needs to be the start of the process, so that those lowlights, highlights, all those things become part of how you do it, as opposed to some infotainment at the front.
Yeah. Great.
Andrew?
Thank you. Paragraph 5.5 in the report, the premise of the plan is that all key components, strategies, activity plans, asset management plans will be complete in draft form by June 2020. Obviously, a document in draft may need further work before it's able to be adopted. I'm assuming that that's been taken into account with that timeline. And also, I'm assuming that there is a degree of confidence that whilst that's a target, it's a target that is realistic and likely to be achieved. What we wouldn't want is a lot of that work being disjointed realising that there are different work streams in different parts of council that would lead to that point. We wouldn't want that work being disjointed and not landing by June 2020, and then obviously experiencing pressure and delays beyond that. Is there any comment on that either could outline any challenges or give us a degree of confidence that that will be achieved?
Well, you come to the crux of what the new process looks like, in that June 2020, to see that material, has never been achieved before. Traditionally, that sort of stuff is available to council in November of that year rather than June. The idea is to start early, to have those drafts ready 6 months before you normally see them, in order to allow council to understand them and to check alignment and to work through those documents. So that instead of a late rush in October, November of meeting, activity plan, infrastructure strategy, there's time to move through it in a measured manner, a bit at a time. To achieve that, because June is quite early, the objective is to make sure that every key component, the financial strategy, the infrastructure strategy, has a clear project plan with milestones of its own, so that if anything starts to slip, that is immediately goes up as a red flag. So that the obvious example is the IS, the infrastructure strategy, is a complex document. It's the hard one to get right. You need to be sure that the options being put to council are pitched at the right level, that the information's clear. Then that demands a project plan that will deliver on time and quick escalation if it isn't looking right. So that's the steps that are being put in place. Those plans are being asked for by the 25th of this month. From there, the program group will make sure that they all work together so that things are going to be happening at the right time to link up, and then it will go to the executive team to make sure that they approve the approach being taken. That includes monthly reporting. It's going into an IT system for monthly reporting against each milestone by each manager. So instead of the verbal by osmosis kind of approach, it's going to be quite rigorous as project management. It's the same project management approach that we take for a capital project. So red lights, flags, comments at every milestone.
And if any of those components do experience slippage, if we get to a point where we're not confident that all of that will be achieved by June 2020, the reporting on that obviously would be to the project oversight group. They would become aware of it, reporting into ELT, and would that be reported to us through this report as well?
Well, the scope of the project plan sets out that the reporting is to both ELT and to this committee, because the LTP is under the oversight of this committee.
Yeah, thank you.
Phil, Glenn?
Thanks, Peter. Just in relation to that same paragraph, I'm just wondering, is it when it comes to activity management plans, I'm assuming there will have been an opportunity for some engagement with community groups and some consultation around some of those, or preferably as many as possible of those plans. Am I right?
Are you talking about by June?
No, before, as part of the ongoing long-term process.
Okay.
Long-term plan process.
I guess there's two steps. One is to actually create the plans and have them ready as a first draft, if you like, for this committee to consider. There's within that 6-month window. Now remember, there's 6 months between that stage and a draft. It's actually 7 to 8 months, and a draft LTP being built. That's the period when you can not only test that the content is working for councillors, but also test it with boards and the community. There's discussions to be had. I don't want to preempt what the comms plan, the engagement plan will say, but I imagine from discussions had so far, there will be some pre-engagement built into this LTP. So in other words, we won't build a draft and then ask people what they think. We will engage with them in the building of the draft.
Yeah. So, Peter, that sounds definitely a positive step. And I guess I'm thinking particularly because as with many of the strategies, we move from the strategy phase to developing action plans, which become activity plans. That's the bit that I guess I believe would be important for as many as possible of the community make comment on those.
I understand it. All of it relies on the councillors' ability to have oversight and the community's ability to be involved in pre-engagement.
Yep.
All hinge on the components being ready in June rather than November.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's why the strict rigour is going to be put around the project planning for each work stream.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks very much, Peter.
Glenn?
Thank you, and thank you for this, Peter. It strikes me in this that a fundamental part of all our planning is the fact that, and it's a bit similar to the questions before, for instance, while we may not borrow for something like the entire, the capital program, we still plan and rate for it. Would I be right, and have you got any additional comments on that?
Well, it's true. There's a difference between the borrowing for the capital program, which is not for the full capital program. That's the Diane judgment call. But we do plan and rate for it in the sense that we have it at a certain level, and that drives how the plan works and the phasing and the rating for that plan. And the borrowing and the rating, the size of the program are two different things.
Yeah, they are two different things. And
Guys, we're not
it's
doing the LTP today.
Sorry?
We're not doing the LTP today.
No, I know, but
We've had this question already.
yeah,
We've had explanations already.
right.
It's not really relevant to this.
Yeah, I feel like I'm peeling off an onion. I want to get to the centre,
No,
so...
well, save it for another time. Dion?
Yeah, just very.
Thanks, Jamie.
James.
No, it's Jamie.
Oh my. You mentioned pre-engagement. I just want to understand: is there an opportunity to use the third year of the annual plan from the LTP as a pre-engagement type tool for building the next LTP?
If it were to eventuate that we don't consult on an annual plan in 2020, say that were to happen, that does open up a lot of resources and time to do pre-engagement towards an LTP.
But even if we did consult on an annual plan, can we use that as an opportunity? Everybody's going to be doing the work to actually start talking and pre-building the LTP and engaging in that space?
You could certainly pre-engage and do an annual plan as well. Lots of councils do pre-engagement. In other words, what would you like to see in the LTP before we build a draft?
Yeah, like this is we're doing the budget this year. Next year we're doing a big one. Things need to change. Okay, that's cool.
If you sandwich the two processes together, people get confused. But
Yeah,
there's
I
no
can
reason why
imagine
you
that.
can't run them concurrently. You just need to make sure that you're talking to people about two different subjects.
Yeah. Okay. Food for thought,
And
I
look,
suppose.
basically, when the project plans arrive at the end of the month, there will be one of them will include a comms and engagement plan, and that should foreshadow how that might work, and you might want to go through that.
Jimmy?
Thank you, Chair. The 5.4, I'm concerned the timing and also the sequence, because we are all aware, those strategic framework or strategic direction or resilient theme should be the first, to be the decided, and then all those program, the plan will be follow this strategic direction. So, but now those draft long-term plan, program plan already done. My concern, the question is whether after the next term, the new council, if those strategic direction is different from the list term, whether all the management level, those the program plan, no matter those the asset management strategy or the finance or some other the kind of the infrastructure strategy will be modified and amended. This is my concern.
Well, look, to meet the June deadline for 2020, the guys are working now on the components, asset plans, activity plans, so forth. However, the two-day workshop that the Chair has talked about, in the last meeting there was, I think from memory, some discussion about, if you like, reaffirming the strategic directions so that even though a lot of progress will have been made by November when the workshop happens, if there were any refinement to those strategic directions, that would be the point to know so that it can be built in early enough. The danger would be that we go flat out for 12 months and then in June of next year find that there's rethink of the strategic directions, which would be a problem.
Yeah,
So-
that's why we're having the workshop, Jimmy. Yeah,
So that's the critical nature of the workshop.
okay. Pauline?
Following on from what Dion was asking, so just to be clear, if there's no significant changes in an annual plan, we don't have to consult?
That's correct.
So what would be the process if we were to work towards making a decision not to consult next year in order for staff to free up some time to work on the LTP? What is the process?
You would need to determine what the nature of your changes are and whether any of them trip the need for an annual plan, consultation. You will need an annual plan, but if the changes are of minor nature and none of them trip the need to consult, you basically make a determination based on what kind of changes you've got.
Right, so to do that sooner rather than later would be preferable.
That's right. And a refinement of that, it's not worth going into now, but briefly, if your changes are relatively few, there may not be a need to have an entire annual plan consultation. You might just consult on those changes,
Oh, okay.
which is still a saving of hundreds of hours
Yes.
of councillor and staff time
Yeah.
over consulting on everything.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hearing, yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I'm happy to move we receive this report. Seconded Mike. Any discussion? Put the motion. All in favour say aye. Aye. Against, that's carried.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. We're going to have a quick break now. Come back at 11:30 sharp. Thank you.